Welcome back to episode 1 of the Extreme Right Center podcast. For those tuning in, we have a guest today, Ryan from Smithers. How's it going, Ryan?
No, things are going pretty good. The drive up here was pretty decent. Not too many terrible drivers. That was a nice change. Sun shining. I can't complain. I'm excited to be hanging out with you guys this morning.
Of course. We have our co-host, Jimothy Kessler. Say hi, Jimothy.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Alright. For today, we have a few main topics based off of the Social Dilemma documentary, which came out in 2020. One of our main topics is misinformation on social media. One of our subjects is misleading information as far as political campaigns go. James, would you like to lead with that?
On X, formerly known as Twitter, fake news spreads 6 times faster than real news. This leads people into the impossible of trying to find what is real online. Ryan, what do you have to say about that?
Just on the note of fake news spreading faster, I feel like that might have something to do with how much it appeals to us, right? I think we can all agree that rumors are always more enticing to spread when they're bigger stories, right? And as a result, people want to click into those. That's what makes these guys money. So that's what I think the reason would be for having it spread faster. But continue, sorry.
So it seems that the fake news is consistently more sensational than the real news. And that is what leads to it spreading faster, according to Ryan. And I can definitely back that up and agree, because people make more money from fake stories that are more sensational than real ones that aren't. Another thing that can be extremely misleading are politicians lying on social media. They will lie to put down other political opponents and try to make themselves look better to gain the voters' attraction. Ryan, what do you have to think?
Jimothy, politicians, for as long as time's been in existence, have been dirty liars. The only difference is it's more blatant and words get twisted easier. Never before in human history have we been able to manipulate what people say and what people think. And I think that is the main concern. Sorry, continue, Will.
Well, just look back to, we went from newspaper media, from independent owners, to something readily available to everyone to put out their own information, to publish their own information. It's such a blessing and a curse to have such a wide variety of information readily available to us and readily available for us to publish, but it also leaves so much of that independent curse of people putting out misinformation.
I absolutely agree.
I completely agree, Will. And there's 2 more points that really connect to that, is the ability to clip people out of context and put those together, taking out large speeches and clipping them into only 20 to 30-second segments on these short-form content platforms, and it leads to people not understanding what politicians really want. Will, what do you think?
I totally agree. I think we should move on to new problems with misinformation on social media, our first main topic. I'd like to move over to the topic of AI and algorithms. One of the snippets and things I've seen about this documentary said is that AI algorithms are racist. Now, this would be implied because AI's algorithms take their information based on human findings and feed that back to humans. Because humans can't be fully objective, this makes the information biased. Would this not, in turn, make every person who is biased racist with that wild claim? Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I kind of want to go back to is the whole thing I was saying with rumors before, right? If it's more outrageous, it's far more eye-capturing, right? And that's just humanity. So it's really hard to blame a computer because computers don't have cognitive abilities. Humans say, if this happens, do this. That's all they are, right? Algorithms usually try and collect as much information and operate on that information. They're not generally programmed to be racist. It's the humans that say, do this. They're given commands, right? And even when it becomes more common for discrimination to show up, it's It's all what humans are watching. These algorithms are all designed to show people what they want to see. If that's what they want to see, that's what they'll be shown.
I think the largest and most interesting experiment that people could do at home who are listening is go to any AI bot and ask it if it's racist. It will tell you its main goal is to be the most objective it can and that it's not racist in turn. Just look at ChatGPT. It literally says, quite literally, on the bottom of the text box that ChatGPT can be wrong, search important information, verbatim.
I think it's quite obnoxious to try to make that claim because realistically, it's just not true. And they claim, with that claim, the statement they said was, well, the data given to it is racist. Data itself cannot be racist if it's accurately collected. Ryan, what do you have to think?
See, that's where I start to become a little bit hesitant, is because data can be skewed. It's not necessarily racist, but as an umbrella term, it can be skewed, right? If I say how many people have green sweaters, and I only ask one person who's wearing a green sweater, I can say 100% of the people in this room are wearing green sweaters. That's the data that I've chosen, right? So data can be skewed. I don't want that to be misrepresented. But how that data is used is the key part.
I also would like to point out outliers, of course, exist. Sometimes you'll get an AI chatbot that is made and wired specifically for a specific purpose, and that leaves the ability for people who are making these chatbots to make them biased on purpose. I personally would like to point out that AI chatbots can be used as a very useful tool for getting large overarching umbrella information that is largely objective, because as AIs are coded, they are made to search as much information as they possibly can and take that to a median. So they can be used to refine information, get a refined answer, as well as getting a very median term.
I understand what you're trying to say. That leads me into something I wanted to ask you guys. So for context, before we started recording, these guys sent me a couple of documents to look over. And something I learned that I didn't know before was that sometimes AI is used for hiring and screening processes. And I wanted to get your guys' thought on that, whether it was a good thing, a bad thing, kind of in between.
This was a statement in one of the precursor videos to this documentary that our teacher provided for us as one of the examples for racism in algorithms. If I'm gonna say this, if any employer uses an AI algorithm to employ employees, that's ridiculous. Nobody does that. On the other hand, when you're using an algorithm to look at everything someone has done, that can be a great way to see what they're good at, their achievements, what their personality type is. But you'll never find someone who is fit perfectly for your workplace better than meeting them and talking to them in person.
I 100% agree. And the AI tools might be helpful for rooting through candidates who might not have the prerequisites but are still trying to get the job and weeding them out and kind of getting them out there. So the people you're actually giving interviews for and you're meeting in person, it's not a waste of your time. They have the requirements. You're just deciding if they are the right personality for that position.
Of course.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Let's move on to potential solutions. I think inevitably with the wave of misinformation, the pandemic, if you will, the largest thing we can do, the best thing we can do is understanding algorithms and understanding how to determine if information is misinformation.
I agree, Will, and I think that people are shown what they want online. That's the reality, because those companies are looking for the most engagement, not what the people really need in their lives, but what the people want. And that leads to longer engagement, but the people don't see the wide variety of what's actually out there. So they think everybody agrees with them, when in reality, they're not giving all the information.
Here's a short, easy way to determine if information is misinformation, is check the address of what you're looking for. Is it .gov? Is it .net? Is it .com? Is it .ca? Oftentimes, websites that are .gov, meaning .government, are more trustworthy because they're from a potentially more credible source.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think information should be scanned now as trying to find a scam, right? One thing that we've been berated with, if you will, is there's always more to a story. So the first thing you see, more than likely, isn't the truth. It doesn't mean it's a complete lie, but do your homework, right? Don't just trust the first thing you see, whether it's something you agree with or something you disagree with. Just do your research. That's all I'll say.
I agree, and people need to be able to discern sensational news from real news. There's a lot of toleration now on social media, and if you try to go against that toleration, they will try to quiet you because they don't want everybody to have their own opinions. The far left loves to say they're tolerable of everybody, but as soon as somebody doesn't agree with what they have to say, they silence them. So they're not truly tolerable. They just want to hear what they want to hear, and if you say go against it, you're done.
Yeah, that's very true. And that goes into cancel culture, where people are feeling hurt and betrayed when they're told misinformation, when inevitably you can view it as a good thing because it's forcing people to come to their own ideas and find their do their own research and actually understand things deeper than they normally would, which some people are and some people aren't. I would like to use that as a closing topic to come back to go back over to our second and last main topic: how social media influences human behavior. I would like to open this with dopamine receptors and attention span, two really big topics in the current tech world, as well as the mental health world.
Moving on to let's go on to our next topic here. I think you guys were saying something about wanting to talk about how human behavior is influenced by social media now, and to me this is one of the most scary and concerning topics. So
yeah, we see changes with the way kids act nowadays compared to before, and it is completely different. The social world, younger adults, is completely changed, and I think Will has some statistics he wants us to bring.
Yeah, I've got some along with, I believe Ryan came with a few. I'd like to start by saying in 2018, young adults with anxiety went up from 8 to 15%, almost doubling in just 6 years, which is really fascinating. Like, I know a lot of my friends struggle with a lot of anxiety, and it's just like you go out to eat and you'll see like little kids with their iPads just on their iPads. Like you see how much has been like technology's been incorporated to replace parenting, to the point where it's filling and creating voids in young adults and children's lives.
I think this is just a societal turn, excuse me, in general. We're seeing, as technology advances, a more relaxed lifestyle, especially in North America. The more we become technologically advanced, the easier things come, right? Before you used to have to, like in the Bible, Jesus walks from town to town. Now we can drive, or we can take a boat, or we can fly. Flying gets us there super fast, but you understand what I'm trying to say. The more technologically advanced we become, the more lazy we get. And now that we can use technology to fill in those parenting roles, we have to ask ourselves, how are our children being influenced, right? Like how are parents being replaced? Is it just these Netflix dramas that end up influencing how kids behave? Like, it's insanity.
It's not just social media. Like you look at like Aiden, he's in the middle of math class, he's playing Angry Birds.
What a guy.
And it's like
All of Aiden, all of
yeah, all of Aiden. But as well as like the negative sides with short form content, and it's really useful for finding a lot of information. But Aiden is also been using using Facebook to scan the internet for trucks, and you Facebook Marketplace.
And just for clarification, Aiden is not the only one who is addicted in our class.
Jimmy.
There are also many women in our class.
But you can look at it as short form information and short form content worsening our dopamine receptors, shortening our attention span, or you could look at it as a really useful tool to find automobiles that we're going to need eventually in our future to be able to go to our jobs and to get groceries, and it's a, like many things, a double-sided coin.
Mm-hmm. And in a society where social media addictions become so accepted and people are accepting, it doesn't matter what you do. If you spend all day on your phone, people will accept you still. It's like, oh, it's okay. It'll change eventually. But people really need to realize that it's not okay and that people need to deal with their problems of social media. Social media has left disconnection in a world where everybody is the most connected. There is an unreal amount of connection across globally between every country in the world now with the use of internet and communication. But this is a time where young teens are feeling the most disconnected from everybody else when they're not online because they feel the constant need for those dopamine receptors to be fulfilled. Will, what do you have to say on that?
I actually wanted to move on to solutions because we are getting close to the end of our time for this podcast. I want to move on to solutions. I think one of the biggest things that these big tech companies and businesses can do is to reduce autonomy. What does that mean? When you're leaving children and young adults where their prefrontal cortex aren't fully developed, because as we know, it doesn't fully develop until 25, when you're leaving them to freely download these apps, to freely access the information, freely access the short form content, you're not giving them the chance to spend that time to do something useful, and which is giving everybody access all the time. What do you have to say about that, Brian?
I completely agree with you guys in that the stats are just insane. I have another quick stat here. This is mostly concerning Instagram. 4 in 10 Instagram users are under 23, so before our brains fully develop. 1 in 17 boys said an Instagram made their anxiety worse. Now, can we prove that? Hard to say, but I mean, 1 in 7 is a pretty high percent. And then 1 in 17 users with suicidal thoughts trace their desires to kill themselves to Instagram. That's just absolute insanity.
That is really sad that media is causing those problems.
So this leads me to my question for you guys. Who's to blame? Is it social media companies? Is it our governments for not watching out for us well enough with these impending media platforms, or are we ourselves to blame for falling so easily into these algorithmic traps?
Well, look at America. They're banning TikTok right now. And I'm already seeing on Instagram memes of people running over to Red, an exact clone of TikTok for China. It's nobody's to blame but ourselves. It's a drug. It's dopamine. We're addicted to it. And we need to make regulations. It's like when you look at the liberal government making safe use places in, especially like in Vancouver, and safe places to get your drugs and safe places to use them. That's not helping the problem. People are just going to use drugs more. That's increasing the drug market, increasing money for people to buy these drugs. It's the same idea with short form video content. It's not helping.
Yeah, I completely agree, Will. And this is actually breaking news. TikTok, the Supreme Court of the U.S. just decided to uphold the law that is going to ban TikTok. So that is going to happen now. That has been confirmed. And that is really good news for the children of the U.S.
It is really good news, but out pops one, another one pops up in its place.
I agree, Will. I don't know if we can fully blame anyone for it. There's plenty of different factors. These social media platforms with the short form content are targeting people's weaknesses to make them fall into addiction and disconnection. And when they give them that anonymous ability online, they have that, so then they feel more bold to bully and be racist and sexist, transphobic, and all of those things. They're emboldened by the fact that there's little to no punishment. And I don't think we can hold the government accountable for that either, because there's so much constantly changing that they would have to deal with to fully be responsible for that.
Well, and we could say, hey, let's make a task force to monitor social media. Maybe that would work, but more than likely, it would be a lot of taxpayer money going into a whole bunch of pretend activity.
Yeah.
That's not going to help anything.
I agree. It would be another pit of tax dollars. And yeah, it's really hard to solve it. Ryan, what do you have to think?
Not to mention that there'll be concerns over free, like if you've already started seeing this in some places with algorithms actually trying to weed out these harmful comments, is the freedom of speech argument, right? Yeah. Algorithms in these places haven't actually been able to learn how to identify correctly yet, and there's going to be lots of concerns surrounding which information gets censored.
There's a very fine line there for the government to walk.
Yeah. Moving into some of our last points here, because I know we're probably running out of time, maybe even over time. With the banning of TikTok, I believe, if I read correctly in some of the articles, they are banning it for espionage concerns, like information being tracked.
Yeah, leaking information to the Chinese government from the US.
It doesn't take much reading to look at TikTok's terms of service just to see what they're actually what you're allowing them to do with your information. Which is like, look at anything. If you're putting in your email and you're putting in your name, they're using it, they're selling it. That's how they make money.
Yeah. Nothing is really free. If it's free, you're the product.
You're the product. That's a statement that I agree with in the documentary. It is insane. I've personally seen scandals on both YouTube, Instagram, and maybe Snapchat. I know Facebook for sure. They're being because there's so much information being actively put on these platforms, it's really hard to monitor and monitor it. And so I've seen acts of terrorism like all the time on Instagram.
And I completely agree with you, Will. There's too much that is being shown, but they need to find a way to weed through it and decide what is actually going to be allowed to be put out there. There was, in the early days of Facebook, there were terrorist groups like ISIS using it to recruit people, and they tried banning it, but they would keep popping up. There needs to be accountability on the end of the social media company as well, because the responsibility of what is being put out on your platform comes with the responsibility of being able to make money off of it.
Yeah. I 100% agree that there needs to be some accountability within the social media companies, because at the end of the day, it's their product, right? They need to be able to control how their product is used, and obviously terrorism is something that it cannot be used for. Oh shoot, where else was I? Okay. Especially in terrorism, this goes back to our main topic of influencing social behavior. Isn't it crazy how easy it is to believe that you're right? Like, we're obviously a biblical podcast. Or in our sinful nature. Oh, Jimothy, do you not agree? Okay. In our sinful nature, we're proud, right? We're proud, and you know what? Yeah. I think there's different kinds of pride. You know what? If you want to be proud that you're a Canadian, American, or wherever you're listening from, be my guest. You know what? I love a good nationalist, but to say that you're always right is one of the most ridiculous things you can say, because it's a trap.
The term you were looking for, Ryan, is self-righteousness. That's something I find way too often in Protestant denominations, and where you get the term charismatic Christian. It's ridiculous, and I think that plays into social media. We've got
here's how it plays into social media. I'll tell you right now, because the way that these terrorist organizations do this is they'll target somebody. So you know what? We'll say. Luke. We'll call him Luke, right? There's this guy, and he listens to the far right or extreme right center podcast, and one day he decides, you know what? Yeah, I need to do something about the social media issue, right? So he keeps scrolling on social media, trying to find things that he can do. Suddenly, he's involved with these groups, and people start blaming the governments for the social media concerns. And now he's like, oh yeah, you know what? Governments need to start doing things. So he starts voicing his concerns, and slowly but surely, somebody with harmful intentions can come along and be like, hey, you want to do something? Here's your opportunity. you're going to come here, you're going to meet me here, and if you want to make a difference, this is how you're going to do it. And you'll convince people all day long that they're doing the right thing when everybody else objectively says it's blatantly wrong.
People are easily led to extremism.
Absolutely.
Through social media.
And we're ever so slowly, we see this in the church and we see this in social media, distorting reality. We're losing our doctrines, we're losing our tradition. It's distorting our idea of information and definitions of even simple terms. We need clear consensus, we need to do our own research, and we need to stop using social media for what short form content. It's ruining our brains.
Yeah, and let's start wrapping the segment with this. Social media itself, I don't think it's a terrible thing. You know what? This could even be considered a form of social media, right? It's how we communicate with each other in our modern age. Its intentions were good. It was meant to connect people from all different ideologies and all different, even across the world, right? It was meant to bring people together. But the way that it's both begun influencing our behavior and changing the way we think at a rudimentary level, and the fact that it's now easier to manipulate people than ever before, especially when it comes to misinformation, as Jimothy did really well in explaining. It's those things that make it much more harmful than it needs to be, and what makes this issue very complex.
I agree. I think that's a great note to end off this episode of the
Extreme Far Right Center. Thank you guys for listening, and we hope to catch you on the next episode.
Thanks for having me, guys. I've really enjoyed my time here, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
It was really nice meeting you, Ryan. Hopefully we'll talk again.
Thanks,
Sounds good, boys. Thanks.
Thanks for your book.
Bye.